If you just heard a loud boom, that may have been the sound of Rivian dropping a ton of information about its upcoming R2 mid-size electric SUV. Now, the R2 is one of the most highly anticipated electric vehicles of 2026. And that's saying a lot because a few highly anticipated electric vehicles are launching this year. But here in North America, the R2 is perhaps the most anticipated. Rivian's been talking about this vehicle for a while. They've been teasing us with information for quite some time now, including an estimated starting price of about $45,000. And the pricing specifically is very important because Rivian needs this to be its mass market breakout vehicle, kind of like what the Tesla Model 3 was for that brand. Rivian needs us to be able to appeal to the mass markets and be a very high volume seller. And in order to do that, it has to be able to keep the prices down. In this press release, we have pricing for the different trims, the different color options, the interior trims, wheel options, and more. I have it all here, so let's get into it. All right, well, I have a lot of information to disseminate, so let's get started with it. First, I want to point out that I am actually a very big Rivian fan and am very excited about today. I've owned a Rivian R1T. I currently own a Rivian R1S first generation, and I do have a deposit on the R2. So did Rivian deliver on their mid-size all-electric SUV for $45,000? Kind of. We'll get into that in a minute. I first want to go over the different trims and the cost for the different trims. The first vehicle that's going to be available in the spring of 2026, which starts in 8 days, the spring of 2026. Now, the vehicle's not going to launch in 8 days, but Rivian says that sometime in the spring, they're going to start off with their launch edition of the performance version. There's going to be a performance trim, a premium trim, and a standard trim, and they're all going to launch at different times. So first, let's take a look at the performance trim, the top tier R2, what it has to offer and what it costs. All right, so the R2 Performance, as I said, is going to be available in spring of 2026. That's 8 days away. And this is what Rivian has to say about it. Debuting with launch package, starting at $57,990. Now, that doesn't include the $1,495 for destination. The performance trim is the most capable R2 on and off-road. The dual motor all-wheel drive variant delivers a staggering 656 horsepower and 609 pound-feet of torque, capable of launching the R2 from 0 to 60 miles an hour in as quick as 3.6 seconds and offering an EPA estimated range of up to 330 miles. And the R2 Performance will come with a semi-active suspension, Esker silver exterior color will be standard, compass yellow brake calipers and exterior badging, all new premium interior with birch wood accents in black crater signature, heated and ventilated seats, heated rear outboard seats, and a heated steering wheel, 12-way power driver and passenger seats with lumbar adjustment, Rivian Premium Auto, including 9 speakers, 2 midwoofers in force balance configuration, 2 subwoofers in force balance configuration, and 975 watts. Rear drop glass, dynamic adventure lighting with adaptive high beams, matrix LED headlights, Rivian torch flashlight in the driver's door, integrated tow hooks. The drive modes will be all-purpose, conserve, snow, all-terrain, rally, soft sand, sport, and launch mode. And it comes with 21-inch liquid tungsten all-season wheels. That's what's standard. Now let's take a look at what the launch edition adds and also the options on the R2 Performance. All right, so the limited edition launch package includes lifetime autonomy plus, a special Rivian green anodized key fob, an exclusive option of launch green exterior color, that is a paid upgrade though, and a tow package with 4,400 pounds of towing capacity. And on the R2 Performance, these are the options you can get. Autonomy Plus It's a one-time fee or a monthly subscription. We'll talk about that a little later. 20-inch black sand all-terrain wheels. Borealis, Catalina Cove, Forest Green, Glacier White, Half Moon Gray, and Midnight exterior colors are optional colors. All new premium interior with birchwood accents in coastal cloud signature. And the tow package with the 4,400-pound towing capacity is an option on the R2 Performance. Next up, we'll go one trim down to the R2 Premium. The R2 Premium will be available in late 2026, so figure 6 or 7 months after the R2 Performance is available. The R2 Premium has a starting cost of $53,990. Again, that's not including the $1,495 destination fee. The Premium trim is elevated inside and out, featuring a dual motor all-wheel drive setup that produces 450 horsepower and 537 pound-feet of torque, a 0 to 60 time of 4.6 seconds. That's 1 second slower than the R2 Performance, but still pretty impressive, and an EPA estimated range of up to 330 miles. That's the same EPA estimated range as the R2 Performance. Okay, and here's what's included. The Esker Silver exterior is the standard color, same as what was on the R2 Performance. All new premium interior with birchwood accents in black Crater signature, heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear outboard seats, and heated steering wheel, 12-way power driver and passenger seats with lumbar adjustment, Rivian Premium Auto with 9 speakers, 2 mid-woofers in forced balance configuration, and 2 subwoofers in forced balance configuration, and 975 watts. That's the same sound system that was in the R2 Performance. It has the rear drop glass, dynamic adventure lighting and adaptive high beams, matrix LED headlights. The Rivian torch flashlight is in the driver's door, integrated tow hooks. The drive modes are all-purpose, conserve, snow, all-terrain, and sport. It doesn't have the rally and launch mode drive modes that the R2 Performance has. And the standard wheels are 20-inch bicolor carbon all-season wheels. The options you can get on the R2 Premium is the Autonomy Plus, which again is a one-time fee or a monthly subscription, 21-inch liquid tungsten all-season wheels. Those are the same wheels that come standard on the R2 Performance. And the exterior color options are Catalina Cove, Forest Green, Glacier White, Half Moon Gray, and Midnight. An all-new premium interior with birchwood accents in coastal cloud signature, and the tow package with the 4,400 pound of towing capacity. And finally, the R2 Standard. This version is going to be available in the first half of 2027, so you figure probably a little more than a year from now. It starts at $48,490. And Rivian tells us the standard trim redefines expectations for the midsize SUV segment. The rear-wheel drive long-range configuration of the standard trim will be available in the first half of 2027. This variant delivers 350 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque with a 0 to 60 time of 5.9 seconds and boasts a Rivian estimated range of up to 345 miles. Notice that says Rivian estimated, not EPA estimated. And I can only assume that's because that version has not yet been EPA certified. The included standard options, again, is the Esker Silver exterior, single motor, rear-wheel drive, long range, all new black Crater interior, heated front seats and heated steering wheel, 12-way power driver seat with lumbar adjustment, and an 8-way power passenger seat. Standard audio is 5 speakers, 2 mid-woofers in forced balance configuration that put out 525 watts. The drive modes are all-purpose, conserve, snow, and sport. And the standard wheels are 19-inch machine graphite all-season wheels. And for options, you can go with Autonomy Plus. You could also go with a dual motor all-wheel drive with 450 horsepower and 537 pound-feet of torque. The optional exterior colors are Forest Green, Glacier White, Half Moon Gray, and Midnight. There's a 20-inch bicolor carbon all-season wheel option and the 4,400 pound towing capacity tow package. But wait a minute, that means the base model, the standard rear-wheel drive R2, is going to cost $49,985 once you add in the destination, basically $50,000. What happened to my $45,000 R2? And then I read a little line in the press release that was below the R2 standard configuration that said, an additional R2 standard variant will arrive in late 2027, starting around $45,000, offering 275 plus miles of estimated range, which is of course 70 miles less than the other R2 standard rear-wheel drive version, which costs only $3,490 more. And then it goes on to say, more details on this vehicle will be shared closer to production launch. All right, so the elusive $45,000 R2 is coming eventually. Well, kind of. They mentioned that it's going to launch at the end of 2027. So that's a year and a half plus from now. And at only about $3,500 less than the other rear-wheel drive standard R2 that can go 70 miles farther. It's hard for me to really look at that value proposition and say, yeah, I'm going to get the one that can go 70 miles less. Of course, there's use cases for that. But I just feel like if the difference was less than $5,000, which it is, getting the extra 70 miles of driving range. And don't forget, in the winter when it's cold, that might be even more important because you don't get the full driving range of the vehicle. It's hard for me to really see how a lot of people is going to go for that model. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we get to the end of 2027 and Rivian says, you know what, nobody's ordering this thing. We're probably just not going to make it because, you know what, the standard one at this price point is such a great deal. That's what we're going to rock with. So I have wished that we could have gotten a little bit more clarity on this, a little bit more details. It kind of seems like even in the press release, it was just added as a line like, oh yeah, by the way, that 45K unit, it's coming, don't worry, but it's down the road. Not a lot of effort was put into talking about that. So that's a little disappointing. Other than that, most of the information we have here, I think is great. And I really do think the R2 is going to do well. Now, we talked about the autonomous driving features, Rivian's Autonomy Plus, and that it was going to be available at a subscription fee. That's going to be $49.99 a month if you want to pay monthly, or a one-time fee of $2,500. Now, of course, the launch version comes with it standard for lifetime. So if you buy the launch model, you get that included. You don't have to pay anything for lifetime. But this isn't the hands-off, eyes-off version that Rivian's been promising us. That version of their Autonomy Plus is called Rivian's Autonomy Compute Module 3, or ACM3. And that hardware includes LiDAR and isn't going to be ready until the end of 2026. That's going to support the hands-off, eyes-off, point-to-point, full autonomy that Rivian's been promising us. So the Rivian R2s that launch now and sell through the end, I assume, of 2026 are going to have the hardware that's in the current second generation R1 vehicles. It will be capable of point-to-point driving at some point, but it won't be the hands-off, eyes-off that we recently heard Rivian talking about. For that, you need the next generation of hardware, and they're telling us at least they're still about 8 or 9 months from being able to launch that. So that's a negative too. The other negative, which really wasn't talked about at all in the press release, but we've known this for a while, is the R2's charging capability, the fast charging capability. For home charging, level 2 charging, it's going to be just fine. But for fast charging, they're telling us it's 29 minutes from 10% to 80%. It has a 400-volt battery architecture like the other Rivians do. And in order to really step it up and charge much faster, you need higher battery voltage, an 800 or 900-volt system. And some of the competitors that are coming out this year, and I mentioned earlier that there's going to be, there's some highly anticipated electric vehicles launching this year. Two in particular will be our two competitors, BMW iX3 and the Volvo EX60. Now, they're not direct competitors, but there will definitely be cross-shopping. And if fast charging is high on your priority, you will not buy the R2. Just for comparison, we're told the R2 will charge from 10% to 80% in 29 minutes. Now, the R2 has an 87.9 kilowatt hour battery pack. 10 to 80%, 29 minutes. The BMW iX3 has a 108 kilowatt hour battery pack, okay? 20% larger than the R2s. And it can charge from 10 to 80% in 21 minutes. The Volvo EX30 can charge from 10 to 80% in 19 minutes. And its battery is just about the same size as the BMW iX3's. It's 107 kilowatt hour. So both of these vehicles have much larger batteries that can go much farther per charge. And they can also charge from 10% to 80% much faster than the R2 is, like 50% faster. The batteries are about 20% larger. They can still charge 10 to 80%, about 50% faster. So that makes a big difference for those that are going to use public infrastructure frequently. If you're going to do a lot of road trips, maybe if you can't charge at home and you're going to rely on public charging all the time, that's a huge difference. Now, for many people, it really doesn't make a difference. If you charge at home, if you have a level 2 charger at home and you rarely go farther than the vehicle's single charge range, once a month, once every 2 months, that extra 10 minutes for you to charge to 80% really isn't going to make that much of a difference. But I do wish that Rivian had focused a little bit more on their fast charging and gotten that number down closer to 20 minutes. Even if it was under 25 minutes, it makes a big difference if you're in a rush trying to get somewhere. But, you know, the 10 to 80% is very similar to Tesla vehicles. They're right around that 28, 29 minute mark. So it's very similar. The range is going to be similar, and it doesn't seem to be a big problem for many Tesla Model 3 or Tesla Model Y owners. They don't seem to complain about the charging that much. But when you see these new vehicles coming out that can charge so much faster, you kind of say, geez, I wish Rivian spent a little bit more effort on the fast charging and made it charge a little bit faster. But while the R2 doesn't charge as well as some of its competitors, it does do other things well. For instance, it has 90 cubic feet of cargo space, much more than any of the other vehicles I just mentioned. It also has better off-road chops. It has a wading depth of 19.7 inches, an approach angle of 25 degrees, and a departure angle of 26 degrees. All those figures better than any of the competitors there. So it is a different type of vehicle. It isn't a venture vehicle, and that's Rivian is an adventure brand. And they nailed it on a lot of those specs. I think it's going to be a very capable off-road vehicle, the all-wheel drive versions at least. And with the power that it has, I think people are going to have a lot of fun with these things off-road. In general, I'm very impressed with what Rivian's done with this package. I think it's going to be the high volume seller they had hoped for. If they are able to really come out with a $45,000 version, I think it'll do okay. I don't think it'll be the best seller in the family. I think that's probably going to be the R2 Premium. I think that hits the sweet spot between capability, power, all-wheel drive, and price. I think they did a really good job on the price on that vehicle. And speaking of that, I put together a graphic that shows the prices and the launch dates. So let's just take a quick look at that before we wrap this thing up. All right, we'll start with the vehicle that's going to launch first, and that's the Rivian R2 Performance dual motor, long range, all-wheel drive on 21-inch wheels. That's launching the spring of 2026. And like I said, that's about a week away. It has an EPA range rating of about 330 miles, and it will cost $59,485. You might notice here I baked in the destination fee earlier when I talked numbers. It didn't include the destination fee, but you have to pay that. I hate the fact that all the manufacturers are allowed to post a figure that doesn't include their destination and handling when they all have the destination and handling. There should be a mandate to include that pricing so it's more transparent to the customer. Okay, so under $60,000 for the top spec. Next up is the Rivian R2 Premium dual motor long range all-wheel drive on 20-inch wheels. That's going to come out the end of this year, late 2026. Same range rating, 330 miles, but that's going to cost $55,485, $4,000 less than the performance version. That's the one that I think really hits the sweet spot. And then we'll go to the R2 standard long range rear wheel drive on 19-inch wheels. That's going to come out about a year from now in early 2027. The Rivian estimated driving range is 345 miles, and that comes in at just under $50,000, including destination. It is $49,985. And finally, the R2 standard rear wheel drive with the smaller battery pack. Now, I just mentioned that the R2 has an 87.9 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's for the other three versions, but the battery pack for this new lower range standard rear wheel drive R2 hasn't been announced. That's going to have 275 mile driving range, and with destination should cost $46,495. And before we wrap things up, I put together another graph. This is the acceleration graph. It has the 4 different models, and you can see on the bottom here, there's 0 to 60 time. So the R2 Performance dual motor goes 0 to 60, 3.6 seconds. The R2 Premium dual motor, 4.6 seconds. The R2 Standard long range, 5.9 seconds. And I've estimated that the lower cost, smaller battery R2 will also have a 0 to 60 to 5.9 seconds, but that hasn't been confirmed. Okay, well, other than the uncertainty about the future $45,000 version, I think the announcement that Rivian just put out is a pretty solid one. I think the pricing is where it needed to be on the other models, and I think it's going to sell really well. But I'd like to know what you guys think about that. So please leave your comments in the comment section below. If you have any questions, I'll answer whatever I can. And the ones that I can't, I can always ask Rivian and see if I can get the answers that you seek. And if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.